Full time here at Dr. Hyde Park, and it has ended Mayo 116, Roscommon 13 points. Joe Biden, he was a happy man yesterday, he's an even happier man today, and another happy man here beside me, former Mayo footballer Andy Moran. How impressed were you with Mayo there today?
Yeah, I think 116 is a great scoreline to get, and then not to concede a goal on the other end is brilliant. Going into now the business end of the championship, going up to meet Galway next week. I suppose the real positives for Mayo was the form of some of the players. Full back line really good. Paddy Durkin, Lee Keegan there in that third quarter, really good. Stephen Cole minding the house really well. Midfield did really well, and then up front I thought Killian was excellent again, and I think that's the second man of the match in a row. And when your main man and your main scorer scored 118 in 2 games, I think it's a really positive moving forward.
I just want to talk to you about the use of the ball from both sides. Like, from Mayo's point of view, what did they do right with the ball? And then from Roscommon's point of view, what did they not do right with the ball, in your opinion?
Yeah, I suppose coming in as a Mayo supporter, coming into the game, the fear factor you had with Roscommon was their full forward line, the Donny Smiths, the Cahill Craigs, the Connor Coxes, and then coming off the bench, the German Murtas and the Lennons and Kieran Murtas and these guys. And that was the real, I suppose, danger for Mayo coming in. That full forward line would get the better of our full back line and we'd struggle. But time and time again, Roscommon get to this area of the field, we're right on halfway here, they get to you and turn across and they go laterally, go between the 265s, and instead of just hitting the 1v1 inside and getting runners off it, they never did it. So it never tested Mayo, even in terms of thought, even in terms of dropping the sweeper. And Mayo were just comfortable right throughout it. Like, we came out here in the second half and we thought Roscommon are 6 points down, any breeze that's in it to have it, really go after it. Never materialised. Mayo get the first 3 or 4 points in the second half and the game is over. Mayo's transition on the other hand was brilliant. If you look at it, the goal for Cillian O'Connor, Owen McLaughlin is standing where we're standing. Instead of going out the left hand side or going across the middle of the field, he goes straight for the goal, leaves it open, drags a man in, pops it over to Cillian. Cillian's finishes it excellent. And then at the start of the second half, really emphasised, win a kick out, score. Ball comes forward, Lee Keegan turns it over, score for Killian. Next time, ball comes back, turn over Lee Keegan, score again. It was just quicker. It was just moving through the lines quicker, and it provided huge problems for Roscommon on one side, and Roscommon's slowness in around the middle third made it so easy for the Mayo defenders on that side.
The Mayo midfield there today, I think the middle third was a key area you were looking at today. Like, that a number of players there from the 2016 under 21s. The kickouts, when you look at Roscommon, there was a lot of long balls sent up there. Do you feel maybe Roscommon should have mixed it about a bit more, shorter, maybe go with short kickouts more so than going long most of the time?
Yeah, I thought on kickouts Roscommon did quite okay. Even at the start, when they did get the 3 points after Mayo scored 4 in the second half, it was 2 breaks in the kickout, 1 turnover. I thought they did quite well. It was just that when they won it, it just wasn't out of there quick enough. You know, I thought our boys, Conor Loftus, Matty Rowan, Cillian O'Connor, did really well in around the middle when Aidan came out. They broke maybe 50-50 or just behind it. But when they got the ball and when they won the ball was moving and was going forward. So I think it was the transition out of the middle more so than the initial first time ball winning in the middle.
One thing I want to ask, Andy, I know you're part of the under 20 setup. Like, there's a lot of young players in this Mayo team now, a lot of them getting championship debuts between last week and this week. You know, looking back on your own career when you started, would you like to be in the position now, having your championship debut in 2020 with no supporters? Is that an advantage, disadvantage for the player? Like, obviously if next year, you know, hopefully all things go well, we have supporters back in the ground. Like, would you prefer to start off your career with no supporters around? Would it make you feel a little less nervy?
Yeah, I started my career, I think, my first championship game was in New York, did quite well. When I came back, Kieran McDonald joined the panel and I was dropped for Kieran Mack the week after. So it was a weird start to my career too, and I just admired McDonald then for the rest of my time playing with him. But in terms of the no supporters, I'm not sure. I think when it's on telly, there's still pressure on you. It's different. Are you getting the real feel of it? I'm not sure. I think a championship debut is a championship debut. You build it up the way you want. There's plenty of people looking at it on telly, and is it less nervy or more nervy? I think only the players can really answer that. For me, as a supporter now, you do miss the crowd. There's no doubt about it, you do miss the crowd. But as a player, I think you're immediately thinking now to Galway next week and how it's going to work out.
As you mentioned there, no crowd here. Like, obviously the It's your first time coming to a game with no supporters for such a big inter-county game. Even the build-up, Andy, you know, a Ballahadreen man, Roscommon Mayo rivalry. Just tell us what that was like there this morning coming to the game.
Yeah, usually you drive through town. It's a really big occasion for the club because we'd have club players who would have been Roscommon supporters, club players who would have been Mayo supporters. So even in the club, there'd be that kind of divide in it when it comes to Mayo and Roscommon. And just this week there was nothing in it, you know, it was nothing. You kind of had to build it up yourself when you were thinking about it. You know, you drive up the main street of the town, I think there was one flag out this morning, and then Arrivo might have had 2 flags there as well. So usually it's a sea of green and red, blue and yellow, and there's flags being sold on the square and everything. But it wasn't there today, the banter wasn't there. But still, we came here expecting a big game, and Mayo brought a big performance and Roscommon didn't. But I would definitely, as a person, I would miss the atmosphere, particularly between the Roscommon and Mayo game.
One player I just want to talk about, he was fantastic today from set plays, but even from open play. Killian O'Connor, your thoughts on his performance there today?
Yeah, look sharp. I think probably, even though he's the highest scorer of all time in championship history, for me he's the most underrated player. You know, he changed our team. He came into us in 2011, didn't start when we bringing you down memory lane, but didn't start over in London for us in 2011. We nearly lost the game. Killian comes on and just makes such an impact to our team. He changed us from a decent team to a really good team with one player. And to me, I rate him up there with the highest. I think he's one of the best players going. And we have to admit, his form wasn't great the last 18 months, resulting in injuries, hamstrings, knees and everything. But he's won 18, scored now in 2 games. Played particularly well against Galway in the first league game. Didn't play against Tyrone, which we lost. The last 2 games have been amazing. And if he can keep that form going, we've got a real squeak next week against Galway, and then moving on, if we can get over that hurdle, moving on, he gives us that chance.
As you mentioned, big one now coming up, Connacht final, the first Connacht final since 2015, which is mad to think it's been that long for Mayo. But you know, Galway coming to that game, you know, they haven't played now in 2 weeks, whereas Mayo 4 weeks in a row now I think they've played. They've had their 2 championship games, this game here today. Like, is there an advantage, disadvantage there for either of them? Like, it's going to be a cracking game, but like, do you feel maybe the fact Mayo have had a number of games coming into it that, you know, like today, they might start that game a lot quicker and a lot brighter, and if they do get in front, you know, Galway might struggle to find themselves back in the game.
That's a question for the sports science guys as well, in terms of, is the GPS over the 3 weeks going down, is it coming up? We don't know. You know, I suppose all that data will be released afterwards, but are you better coming in fresh? Are you better thing? Like, I'll give you an example. Didn't back, but I predicted that Longford would get bet by Louth last week because they missed the game against Cork, and then they go out and beat them and put in a really good performance again today against Laois. So it's hard to know. It really is hard to know. Does it give Shane Walsh a time to get right? You know, some of the injured Galway players, Duran, these guys, does it give them more opportunity to get right and be ready for next week? It's hard to know. Me personally, I prefer to have games, and the 4 games in a row, that's what I prefer to have myself personally, and hopefully that kind of proceeds. But we're going in, there's a trap set. We went up, put in a really big performance in Tuam. We go up to Salt Hill next week. Salt Hill is windy at the best of times. There's a gale force wind coming right down the middle of the field. What are we going to get with weather this time next week? We just don't know. It could throw Antrim at us. So the team here, Mayo need to be ready for Antrim. Galway need to be ready for Antrim. And we literally, until we walk into the ground next week, don't really know what sort of weather is going to be in front of us.
And just from what we've seen over from Mayo from the last year or two, Andy, have we noticed any change in their style of play? Obviously a lot of new players in the team, but in terms of their overall style of play, are you seeing anything different there?
No, James would have a very distinct way of playing football. He's got a really distinct style. He likes his defenders who can move. He's implemented Conor Loftus in the middle of the field, who's a kicker, so it kind of gives us that balance as well. Aidan at full forward gives us a focal point with Killian playing well and Tommy moving around him. So it's James's style. You need to be able to move on the field. You need to be able to run. You need to be quick, athletic, and all the players are kind of doing that. The influence of Kieran MacDonald was interesting there today. I seen him kind of getting a bit of protection in around the back line and little things like that, just observing what he was trying to tell the lads, and that's interesting as well. So we'll see next week, I think, more so when we're against the wind for the first half or we're with it for the second half or vice versa. We'll see what kind of changes are made around it. But James would have a very distinct way of playing the game, and you're talking about James Horan there, and you're talking about the Mayo setup. Even the battle on the sideline is great next week. John Divney and Porrick Joyce against Kieran MacDonald and James Horan, you know, some of the best players that have played for both counties. and it's amazing. But James has a really good record in Connacht Championships. He played like bar last year, his first four, he won 4 Connacht titles, National League last year. So he's got that habit of winning, and hopefully he can carry that next week.
Well, there you go. Full time here at Mayo, or full time here at Dr. Hyde Park. Mayo 116, Roscommon 13. Celebrations were big, I'm sure, in Ballina last night. They'll be bigger again today. Andy, thanks a lot.